That's because you got a cop sitting next to you. You have to clear the Shirley Green sign. Yeah, it's like-
You're good.
You know what?
Okay.
It's real easy.
Okay. You have. I can take it. That's it.
Okay, we're gonna call to order the meeting of the Board of Education for June 11th. Let's rise to the pledge of allegiance. I'd like to have the kids for this pledge of allegiance tonight, please. Raise their hand. Somebody want to start? Or jump to allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America. To the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, starting with Vic, please.
Big Tom Burrows.
Joey.
DeGrande.
Robert Park.
Nicole Levine McGrath.
Vinnie Canadella.
Debbie Sherman.
Mike Kusa. Steve Kozer.
Amendments to the agenda. We're going to add during the finance report, an amendment to suspend the bid process for May and June, which is what we normally do, but now we're in June, so it's just gonna be for June. We'll do that under finance. The approval of minutes, May 28th. Does someone want to make the motion?
Second, sorry.
You're making a motion.
I can make that, motion to approve the minutes of May 28th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Student education?
Yes, favorite part of the meeting. And so, every school in Connecticut, or most schools belong to the CAS, which is the Connecticut Association of Schools. And they have a student, recognition at the end of each year. And it's a special recognition because it's recognized from the leadership of each school for students that have gone above and beyond with scholarship and community service and leadership. We have two students that were recognized through CAS and wanted to recognize them at the Board of Education today. And the first is Brady Coombs.
Understand?
Did amazing work and want to congratulate you, so thank you. This is your certificate. We're gonna take a picture.
Oh, you got it. You're front and center.
Keep up the amazing work. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And second is Milana Tagayetti.
Proud of yourself.
The picture. You have great work. Congratulations.
You want to have a picture? Yeah, okay, hold on. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And the next recognition is from the Connecticut Association of Public Schools. This is what we did back in May, and Josh. Up here. This is the recognition that goes to students that were awarded by the school administrators in each middle school and high school.
Yep.
And several years ago, the bios were read at the award ceremony until the superintendent realized that that took too long. So they stopped that. But I did want to share publicly the bio. You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so Joshua Bordolo has excelled in the fields of both academics and athletics with unwavering dedication and exceptional character. In the classroom, he has displayed an unparalleled work ethic. And on the soccer field, Joshua exemplified resilience and skill as a 4-year varsity player. Wow. Leading his undefeated team to state championships. Joshua also demonstrated remarkable leadership qualities as the captain of the school's unified sports team, soccer team, and as a member of the CIC Unified Sports Youth Activation Council. Additionally, Joshua is a member of the National Spanish Math Honor Society's Link Through and Student Council. He plans to major in accounting and play soccer in college. I don't know if you find time to do all that. No. amazing work you went in it. Congratulate you and wish you all the best. Congratulations. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Go for it.
Is that it?
Yes.
Well, thank you, guys. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can sneak out if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Have a great summer.
Thank you.
Audience citizens, does anyone wish to say anything? Just your name, please.
Lee Webb, 2 days, Beyond Lane. So I just wanted to speak about the reclassification of the athletic director to a full-time role. Although I see it posted still as a part-time role as well. I have a daughter in the high school who's played 2 sports for 4 years and a middle school son who has played 2 sports for 2 of his years there. And then, you know, I just want to say that during the last 3 years under the leadership of Coach Stockmall, I've seen teams that have high visibility like softball receive huge support, such as moving a fence to the normal softball distance that no one for years cared to do. I've also seen sports like girls swim and dive that fly under the radar that he's given tremendous support to as well. We've seen many teams win NBLs, get to the semifinal and final rounds of states, and a few programs have had their best records in school history under his direction. We had an AD who enjoyed his position, wanted to be here, and I've heard nothing but support from him from the sports parents that I have spoken with. The fact that we couldn't come to an agreement with him, to me was very sad. It makes me wonder how hard it was tried to negotiate with him. Currently, we're paying a $20,000 stipend for high school and $3,000 for the middle school. And now we're willing to pay a full-time position up to $110,000 as per the job posting. And I feel like $87,000 to fix something that isn't broken, is just crazy. I think the addition of this and other administrative positions are part of the reason that Board of Finance cut $200,000 from the budget. I feel like if there's an extra $87,000 laying around then to fund this position, then I agree with them, it should have been cut. We're a very sports-minded family, so of course, a full-time dedicated AD sounds great to me on paper, but the job description doesn't seem to detail anything that is currently lacking. Dr. Miller said several times recently, we need to show support to our current staff, but yet that doesn't seem to be happening across the board. Very frustrating to keep losing good people in this school system. I don't know why we're dismissing somebody, a known entity who has done so much for our kids for somebody who's unknown. Like so many other things in this district, it seems to be a knee-jerk reaction to a personal agenda going on behind the scenes. I know you're going to tell me that it's not, but that's how it appears. And then I just feel like more thought. I watched the Board of Ed recording last week or 2 weeks ago. I feel like more thought needs to be determined exactly what we need before we hire the right position for the wrong job and lose another good one from the Oxford district in a year or 2 down the road.
Thank you. Anybody else? have anything? No? Okay. Board correspondence or communications?
None.
Okay. End of the year report, curriculum and instruction.
There was 2 documents on the agenda before we get to the other piece. There's the end of year assessment report and then the goals piece. Does it matter which one we do first?
However you like.
All right, so I'll do the end of year assessment report first. So if you remember this, actually, this report was from last year, was done in November after I got here in August. And the reason why it was done in November is we don't always have all the data at this point. So like I see this as very initial data. We're still missing a bunch of state information, which is usually not finalized and publicized until middle of June. The state also has a website called EdSite, which also they update over the summer, which provides a lot of information in regards to trends and comparison with other districts, state, national averages, and that sort of thing, just to create more information when reviewing the data. So a lot of this data is less than 2 weeks old. So it's kind of at this point just presented as initial data and initial finding. And then when we get to the fall, there will be a larger report where, you know, this I see as bringing up a lot of questions, especially for me when I see it. And then I spend the summer of digging deeper, getting more information, to kind of come up with the answers, if that makes sense. So kind of some of the key points, you know, that again, I saw and then I'll be working on, throughout the summer. As you saw, there's some of the reading, data that's in there. We did run a lot of new programs for the first time this year. So HMH growth measure and DIBELS, which was used at the K-5 level this year. Both of those were run, for the first time this school year, full implementation. The DIBELS data, we set a goal, earlier this year of trying to get 70% of kids at or above benchmark in the first year, just trying to see where that typically is going to live. And we did get to 68%. That assessment is used a lot for intervention at the younger levels as well in regards to taking that data throughout the year. And then interventionists will work in small groups with students. That information I still have to work into this as well, be used in the fall. As I put in the report, the HMH growth measure, we did find out late this school year, that, you know, the way the data is presented and the information we're able to glean from it, when working with the data specialists at HMH, we realized we're not going to get what we want out of it. Looks like we are no longer going to be using that as a benchmark moving forward. We also have, in the report, obviously iReady data, SAT data. Again, when I talk about this creates more questions for me. The questions that, you know, I come up with at this point are, this is year over year data. One thing that I'll put together over the summer, I started putting together, but just need more time on is that cohort data. So, you know, looking at that year over year, how did 10th grade on the PSAT or 11th grade on the SAT do versus last year's students? I'm a little more concerned about, hey, this group since, you know, as far back as we have data, into whether it's Quaker or Great Oak, how has that data looked year over year for the past decade with these students as they've moved up the grade levels? So that's other information I'll pull, as well as, again, trend data. Are we following trends with the state and with some of the national trends with the SAT data? Some other interesting information I found in here, that I got to look further into is, you know, at the middle school level with iReady, that assessment is, you know, we always look at the growth in that assessment. And what we saw is a pretty clear, and you've heard of the bell curve. We're looking at assessment scores where, you know, most of the students from in that middle range. We actually saw kind of a inverted bell curve where, the majority of the students are either fully met their typical growth goal, which we had over 55% of middle school students reach their typical growth, meaning based on that benchmark in the fall, the program will say, based on all the data we have from all the kids who take this test throughout the country, the typical student, you should be able to reach this goal. So we have over 55% of the students who met that, but we also have about 20% of the students who did not grow above 20%, which is the lowest section, with a small percentage of students in the middle, which is rare to see. So again, next steps is kind of looking at that data and figuring out the 20% who didn't grow, was it a motivation type piece, or one of the things I'll look at this summer is going through the data and like, how did they do on SBAC versus the grades they got in the classroom? Or does it show us a bigger piece that we got to look at? So again, that information I don't have at this time. It would be more guesses. That's information I'll be getting over the summer.
Okay.
And then, you know, same thing with math. We did see a decrease with year over year with that math SAT data. It's already been conversations with the math department at the high school. That's going to be a focus for next year in regards to the pathways we have at the high school. But again, this summer will be kind of focused on that cohort trend data to see if, you know, yes, we have the year over year, but what has this class done for the past 6, 7, 8, 9 years? And how does that look when compared to what the data shows now?
And looking over the inverted curve, you know, I know in economics, the inverted curve is pretty bad. But it's also, what's it called, Mondale,
Bimodal,
bimodal.
Yes,
Yes, that
yes.
scared me because it thinks it's a molder. And it looks like a molder for anybody that's trying to figure out what this is. It's a Campbell's hump.
Mhm.
Okay, so with that in mind, as you analyze that, it's the gap between the two humps. Is where the territory of confusion is over why it's happening, and it's different for math than it is for English. So I read through the different ones, and each
Yeah.
one has a different thing, so it's a challenge that we'll be looking forward to seeing
But-
next year as to why, this is the first that I heard of the double hump.
Yeah, and we can't publicly talk about the SBAC data yet. We did see some, generally, we saw positive, we'll get some positive reports from the SBAC data. I can't get into some of the specifics.
The state has given us a notification that we're not allowed to publicly release that information.
Yeah. And that's why none of that is in here. But one of the things with iReady, we keep kicking around too, is that motivation piece. So they took that after SBAC and NGSS. So they did, students tested after doing the two other tests towards the end of the year. We've also done that sort of assessment early in the year, but then it's catch-22. Students don't get instruction on certain topics they're going to be assessed on if you do it earlier in the year. If you do it later in the year, then you run into the students are also taking NGSS and that's back, and are they sick and tired of sitting here taking the assessment? So that's why I got to look at that 20% a little deeper to see, does that correlate with what we're seeing on SBAC? On SBAC in the classroom, or is it or is there a identified trend?
The other thing is looking at, a lot of the charts are done in percentages.
Mhm.
And they're not always consistently the same chart, which is something we've asked for 7 years. Please make the data consistent. But I know it's iReady and all this other kind of stuff. But if you add up the percentages, in some cases, it's 94.
Well, it's 100, yeah, so they-
105%.
Yeah,
I mean, and you're saying something improves 70%, yet it's 105% versus 2 years ago, where it's 95%. So as a novice, not a statistician, I think maybe some years will qualify that. It's mind boggling.
yeah, and a lot of the systems round instead of giving you the exact number, which relieves it on some of that information.
Math, high school math. Is there any correlation between the issues with the elementary math program that doesn't speak the same language as the high school math program?
So you mean that because we go from like an IM to a big ideas to, we're doing a lot of work right now, curriculum writing. One of the goals this year was to work on math curriculum writing. So we did this data is also used to help inform that. So, I can't sit here and just say, and there's like I'm not concerned at this point, the fact that there's one program to the next, because they do align well to the state standards and what they should be learning. Our work is on refining the curriculum we had in the past to what we're going to be using now to make sure we don't have any gaps with the standards that we have to cover. So, for example, one of the things that's come up with some of the data analysis that I'm working on with curriculum writers now at the middle school is we've noticed that the way some of the programs work, because you may hit upon a standard in 6th grade and the build upon may not be till 8th grade. But the students are then asked to recall the information from 6th grade all the way to 8th grade, which is not working out very well. So within the curriculum writing process, we've actually in some courses created these mini units where typically if students, like for example in the 7th grade, hit this particular standard before, no, but we are saying, well, to take a year gap of not touching this and expecting kids to recall, let's see if hitting this in 7th grade and adding a little bit here, so it's not a full year of not touching, then having to go back to it. So that's one of the things we're looking at, how we've used the data to look at curriculum writing and change it there. So.
Anybody else?
Mhm.
Yeah. I didn't get much more of a chance to look at this than you did probably, but maybe next year we can get these statements always intrigue me, 60% of students will reach typical growth.
Mhm.
Okay, so, most rockets will typically reach a certain attitude or
Yeah.
something. And most of them blow up. What does that mean?
So,
What is 60% of typical growth?
so the typical growth,
Sitting here.
so the typical growth is that program gives you, hey, based on all the kids who have taken this test in the entire country, here's where we think that growth, this is the growth target they should reach. So that's what typical growth is, according to that program.
And if I'm a parent, do I get a verbal description that my,
There's a report that goes home
and
that
it tells me
shows.
that he's atypical or?
Yeah, so I get it's confusing just to here and there. The parents do get a more detailed report where it kind of shows the different assessments throughout the year and if they've grown and where they've grown. One of the things one of the goals I'll be working on this summer is because of, there's so many different assessments out there across the district. And if you have a child in, K2 and you're taking, there's different assessments there that are required by the state than there are at 3.5 and there are at 6.8. One of my goals is kind of redoing or adding to our district website, more parent information on some of these, because we try to send home letters before the assessment, but it's hard to put something in a quick, concise way to a parent, which kind of explains what the assessment is. So for example, the Dibbles assessment, which is used K5, that assesses early literacy skills. There's 8 different sections. If we try to send home a report which explained all 8 in detail, the parents would get that and go, what is this? But they do have some very quick, easy videos, which shows here's what it looks like when your child takes the assessment. Here's what it means. So I want to build a page on the website, which is kind of for the parents who are interested in easy, quick, other different resources they can go to get an idea of what these assessments.
Because I was trying to tie this in with the IP programs for every student. So as you go through this, you're atypical, not atypical, and then you brief the parents on what their individual plan is. Correct? That's what we're gonna do next year. So the teacher's got 20 kids times 5 classes, 100 kids, so we 100 IP.
Well, that's different. If you're saying IEP, that's special education.
IEP is what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, that's special education specific, so not every student has an IEP.
Okay, which IP am I talking about?
I'm not sure.
Well, no, because I keep reading IP for everybody, nationally.
So you may be talking about an IEP, or I'm not sure what IP.
Individual
Yes.
program.
Oh, education, yeah, that would be a special education IEP. Not every student has one of those, just if they qualify for special education services.
So like I said, in the fall, if you remember, for those of you who were here in the fall, that report was about 3-4 times as long with a number of different types of data tables, which gets into a lot more detail with all the different assessments. Another document just to review tonight. So the curriculum instructional goals. So this was presented to the board in November, and then kind of we discussed updates, whether it's in this setting, the subcommittee setting. So this is not a complete list of everything that was worked on coming out of my department, but some of the bigger pieces. So, kind of one of the big goals of this year was to kind of get moving on curriculum writing. Before we can do that, about halfway through the year, we adopted a district-wide curriculum template. So just, hey, no matter what is written, what course, what level, when we write curriculum from now on, it's going to be done in this template, and all training moving forward is done using that template. So everyone who's writing curriculum at this time has a copy of that template, and then once completed, then another portion of revamping the website is going to be posting the curriculum. So that new template will be posted online once all those curriculums become official. And then any curriculum written, obviously, every year moving forward will be added in that template. The curriculum writing has been going well because it took a few months to get to the point of bringing people together, coming to an agreement on the template, getting people trained on what the template is, the philosophy behind it. We've probably only been curriculum writing for about half a year. So, right now, a lot of the work is being done in grades 6 through 8 math, 6 through 12 English, 10th grade health, which is, newer course, which the board, talked about a couple months ago in a meeting. We also have, I just had a meeting with the middle school art teacher. We're gonna be doing some work over the summer as well, with curriculum writing. And then some, work was done in physical science, and then stats, a half-year stats course at the high school was also written this year. So, in a half a year, I will say, we did get a bunch done. I had a bunch of people come up to me who were interested and wanted to get going, that we just kind of had to pause things. Just because we had so much going on, and because sometimes you need to talk a little bigger in a department level before you get to the curriculum writing piece. So we do have some goals for next year as well. But this is what is being worked on now and then throughout the summer. So I think we're at the point where I have about 15 or so people trained on writing the curriculum. And then each year is just going to be more and more, which helps us because they bring that information and knowledge back to their grade levels and their departments, which is only going to help us moving forward. The next piece is the identifying what high quality instruction looks like for Oxford Public Schools and developing a T-BEL plan that supports all staff. So a lot of that work is in the district evaluation plan. We do have a vision for high quality instruction, which is in here, which all teachers are going to create their yearly goals on. A lot of that is based off of the 21st century skills rubrics that the district's been working on the past couple of years, as well as the universal design for learning. So all those pieces live in our vision for high quality instruction. And when I get to the evaluation plan, get into a little more detail as to like how that is going to live with every teacher in the district. So I'm happy where we are there in regards to creating that, and that's going to really take come to life more next year than it did this year. And then,
Quick question. Eric.
yes,
So I think in a past meeting, you had like a list, like a matrix. Are you gonna have that refreshed where it's like every grade, every course, green, yellow, red, green, and date curriculum written, or
yes. So eventually, once we get more curriculum going,
keep adding into it so we get some
yes.
accomplishment?
and each on a year-to-year basis, know when stuff was done, when stuff was completed. That will also help. Eventually we'll look at writing revision cycles. A lot of districts do like 5 years. Personally, I see the curriculum more as a living document and doing small revisions throughout. And then eventually, yes, if there's new standards that come out, new requirements of the state, you may need a larger revision. And we'll look at that in 5-year cycles, whether you need it or not. But I see it more as a living document in regards to making revisions as needed based on data we get from the students or teacher feedback. But yes, that will be updated every single year, so we get a look at what was done each year, and if things aren't done, why, that sort of thing.
I think it'd be a good visual, because I mean, if you're getting some good work done, you should take a lap around it, right? And it should start turning, color.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And even though it's a living, breathing.
Yep.
Teacher's document, but we're starting kind of from almost nothing, just was a year of building, like, just to see it starting to fill out, I think would be a good visual for people.
Okay. Yeah. And that document, yeah, we'll refer a lot to that subcommittee as well. And then the math piece, we did have the math grant with the tutoring this year. Again, a lot of that is tied to the SBAC. So in the fall, there's going to be a more, a report just for the math tutoring at the middle school. There were just initial looks. There was, mixed results. There were some kids that made some amazing progress. Some kids not as much, which we got to dig a little deeper and see if that's a trend on other assessments as well. We did survey the students as to likes, dislikes. The tutors that they work with came back very favorably in regards to knowledgeable, easy to work with, presented the information well. Probably the biggest piece of negative feedback we got from it was that students had to come out a win for it. So if you remember that grant came, we didn't get the funding until a couple months into the school year. So unfortunately, school's already started, kids were already in routine, and then we had to work with students coming out of that. So we still have money in the grant, and I'll be working with the middle school principal this summer to determine next steps on that. But a full report, once we have the SBAC data, able to publicly go over that, will be done in the fall. And then one piece, there, a plan for dual enrollment. That is gonna be more of a kind of next year. If you're looking at the things we're able to get done, I would say kind of this is probably the amount we got, least amount of work done on. Alicia, the guidance counselor up at the high school, has been great to work with. I've also met with a number of different staff who have experience doing dual enrollment. So basically taking courses at the high school would also give them college credit. There's a big push from around the state. And honestly, it's where it's not, the colleges, they're very different as to expectations and what they want to get the credit. Some are seeming to be very loosey-goosey, which is kind of makes me raise my eyebrows and want to look more into it as to what they're going to give our kids college credit for if we kind of go down that route versus some that are a lot more strict and have certain protocols for like the exact exam you got to use. There may be attendance pieces. They may want to come to the classroom and see students. So that's another piece I also want to work on with whoever the new principal is going to be at the high school, and think they would take a big part of that on as well. I do have here on some initial focus for next year. I just talked about the dual enrollment piece and working with the principal on that. A big piece for next year is also going to be the fidelity of the new district evaluation system. A lot of work is going to be done with administrators on calibration, making sure everyone's on the same page, making sure the goal setting that's done, the feedback teachers get, teachers in every building kind of have the same knowledge and understanding of what the new evaluation plan is. So teachers get basically the same experience throughout. Curriculum writing will be continued. So I know foreign language is going to get looked at from the middle school up to the high school, K-5 math, and then K-5 ELA with focus on scope and sequence with the new program. And as I found this year, there's always going to be teachers coming and want to sprinkle other stuff in. But as of now, that's going to be a focus for next year. Also a continuation of the K-5 literacy assessment alignment. With the information of HMH growth measure not working for us. Again, it's just that work of looking at those assessments. And, what we did find is I think, we might have been over assessing a little bit. So we're going to make sure that the students are not over assessed in that area. And a lot of that work is going to be done with the literacy coach that we hire as well. The shared vision piece that's on the document with the literacy coach, and then the addition of a couple new department heads in certain content areas. A lot of my work will be kind of on that shared vision, making sure they're trained in the curriculum writing process, how to read the curriculum, how to give teachers feedback in certain areas, whether it be instruction or the professional learning goals. That is going to be a large piece of my year next year. And then I have on there, I've had meetings and I've reached out to teachers to get feedback in regards of looking at trying to get the district using the same platform from K-12 instead of different platforms where now we're using a mixture of IXL, iReady, as well as others. So I am investigating, looking at trying to make one platform K-12. So kids have a similar experience when they switch from one school to the other. So if we switch to IXL, which I've had meetings with those representatives, had quotes, it is a similar platform, assess the same standards. I think that platform gives us a little more bang for our buck in regards to it aligns directly with a bunch of the programs that we use from all the way from Quaker up to the high school. I think it does do the benchmark that we're looking for. But it does in a way that I think is a little less stressful for the students and not as like you need this testing schedule to get it done. It's more of, kind of like the kids get used to it. It's just something that they're doing. It's not this, hey, we have testing on this day versus this day. So it is something that I have some more work to do, but I have got teacher feedback quotes and I have a couple more meetings with the company to just get a little more information.
IXL is only hybrid retrieval.
Yes, for the personalized instruction piece.
Tremendously positive feedback.
Of the teachers, I think I got 30, I did a survey just to figure if teachers were supportive of the change, not supportive of the change, and I also added indifferent. I think I got 34 teacher responses, which from K-8 was all, I didn't do the high school the same way because they're already using that program. But K-8, I have representation from every grade level. And I had one response that was not supportive. 60% of the responses were supportive. One was not, and then the rest were indifferent. And most of the indifferent, the feedback was just concerned about PD and being prepared to give it. I have had teachers come up to me excited about it that use in other districts and, you know, would love to make the switch today if we could. You know, so again, I've been collecting that feedback from teachers as well.
In the past, we haven't been very good about giving them PD that they need. When we throw something out there, we don't give them the PD that they need.
Yeah.
To make it successful.
Yeah.
Hope the balance is that. Anybody out there?
Yeah, certainly back to teachers' evaluation. We've, I've been here 7 years, we've been doing it 7 years.
Mhm.
And mostly under one particular format, I guess C is what they go was called. Okay, and I kind of quickly reviewed that program there. So we've had a good part of this year for you to kind of get immersed and have persona for each class. You know, what is going on there? Will we get a report early next year as to what, I don't want individual teachers or anything like that, and that's, because that's always the thing that, oh, you know, you're, whatever. It's, we need to know as a board what our teachers represent to you and to the students. Yeah, you said you had a survey done. I don't think we ever got a copy of that survey.
Which survey?
The survey you said that you did.
You just did it for the IXL.
To get their feedback on a possible platform change, see if they'd be supportive with that.
As far as the evaluation plan goes, the evaluation is something that is individualized and a piece of evidence related to each individual teacher. It's not something that's supposed to be reported out in bulk to boards or to the general public. It's the evaluation.
And that's exactly what I said, and I qualified it, okay? Yeah, sorry that you interrupted, but I qualified. I don't want individual teachers. But I think as a board, we need to know what the school persona is as a total, okay? You know, you have math programs that parents can't understand because it's a written math program. Now, I don't know. You know, came up with right about math, but without having a feel of what's going on, we're losing teachers, we're hiring teachers, we're doing all kinds of things, you know. It's a Rubik's Cube of teachers. And that's from a board member, at least 1/9 of it, is that you need to know what your feelings are and a generic overall view of how they fit. You know, is the high school really happy with the product they did from 8th grade? We've gone over this year after year. We learned last year, they go, they ain't doing the same stuff that we're teaching. And we know 6th grade is important, and we talked about this way back. That's the game plan that I have envisioned. I don't know if anybody else goes with that, but as a board member making big financial decisions, you know, we need to have that kind of information. Otherwise, we're just throwing the dart.
There's a lot there. Well, the evaluation plan is, but a lot of that is gonna live outside the evaluation. Like a lot of that is not,
It's not evaluation.
it's not an evaluation thing. It's more of a curriculum writing standards, vertical alignment piece, which yes, is a lot of the work we're doing have started, but it also takes a lot of time. One of the things when I did my interview here and I talked about I had to do first was kind of like building that relationship piece first, with where you talked about change, right? New guy comes in, if I started in the first couple months and said, hey, here's a template, hey, we're moving the platform, hey, we're doing this, people are like, this guy's crazy, get him out of my room, right? So I've been trying to get into classrooms, talk to teachers, what they like, what they don't like, get knowledgeable about the data. Last year I started a couple days for the school year, didn't have the opportunity of like having the summer to get organized or prepared. It was kind of like, hey, started the school year, here we go. Here's what you're doing this year, have fun, right? So,
That's what we said, rock on.
yes, rock on. So, the relationships I think I was able to build this year, and I still have work to do to get to every room. I'm not saying I made a close relationship with every teacher in the district, but I tried to work hard with, being seen, working with others, so we can do a lot of this heavy lifting that has to be done.
We're looking for horizontal
vertical line.
Catch. Well, it's not vertical,
Yeah.
close the test.
Yeah, thank you. That pass.
Yes, but that's what we're looking for.
Yep.
And that's what I'm hoping for next year.
Nicole?
For the longest time, we talked about curriculum and it was always a big worry of this board. And to see a document like this with goals planned out and timelines and the relationship piece that you just talked about, that you have teachers who actually want to write curriculum. For the longest time, we couldn't get that kind of buy-in. I think it speaks volumes about the type of leader that you are, and kudos to you. I'm so happy you're here, and if there's anything we can do to support you, please let us know.
Thank you. I enjoy being here, and it's, teachers have been great, principals have been great to work with. Central office administration's been great to work with, so I just look forward to having the summer, being prepared for the school year now, being able to organize and get ready for it, so.
Anybody else have anything to add? I just want to say from curriculum standpoint, it's actually nice to have curriculum. We've gone a very long time without, and having the same platform for everyone to work off of is huge. So thank you for that. Anybody else? Thank you, Eric. And your report for special education.
Sure, so I'm gonna send around an additional data point. I had a conversation with someone today asking for a little bit more data, so I did pull that up. I will explain it a little further as well. So as you'll see, my report looks a little different than it did at the beginning of the year, but that was by request from board members of what they wanted to see in the report. So there was more information wanting in terms of trend data and what that looks like throughout the district. Also more information about the curriculum that we adopted for our transition students. And then I focused a little bit more on the training that we did with our specialized program. So the report looks a little bit different by request. And if there's anything additional you want information on, I'm happy to share that. I will say that our staffing levels have remained consistent. We have remained fully staffed through the whole year. We did have some paraprofessional postings where we didn't have any applicants, but we finally were able to fill those positions. It's also very hopeful. I believe we only have one open position as of right now for next year. We did have an open school psychologist position, which is a very hard position to fill, and we have already filled it. So we are ready for next year at this point in time, which is great to see. We did a lot of new learning. We did developmental therapy, which I'll talk a little bit about for our specialized program. We did a lot of work with transition assessments for middle school and high school. At age 14, we have to start creating transition IEP goals and objectives for all of our students. So we did some work with a couple of the assessments. Actually, Linda was able to contact the author of one of the assessments, and he virtualed in from Texas and went through the whole assessment and provided additional resources. So that was really great. And then restorative practices, we had some clinical staff members trained on this year. We will be implementing, you'll hear a lot from me over the next year or 2 years about the new legislation and what that's going to look like. And one of the pieces for next year is starting to train additional staff in restorative practices. So that's something of a goal for next year as well. That kind of teeters between my role as special education director and assistant superintendent. So you'll hear a lot more about that. We did, based on the survey, create a special education focus group, and we did have representation from every building. We did meet a couple of times this year and identified some areas of challenge, and we've already kind of brainstormed ways to address those areas of challenge and worked on some of them in terms of scheduling PPTs, some of the strain of case managers and kind of more of the secretarial work, and we've got some ideas to move forward to lessen that burden for teachers. Our specialized programs are growing. So we are now transitioning more students to the middle school location. And then we have more students moving up from kindergarten. So we do have to do a little bit of hiring in order to support those, but we are growing, and we have enough staff trained to be able to support. And then preschool program is also expanding. So this year our preschool team did 36 pre-K referrals. I will say in the last month or so, we had about 7 come in 1 month. A lot from birth to 3, but also parent referrals. So it's something we're going to have to continue to look at as we move forward, because we're getting so many more students coming in at the pre-K level. And then CT sets, it's our 2nd year of implementation. I would say it's gotten better. We still run into some issues here and there. And it's really nice, we're losing Nancy, who is the CT SEDS pro, but we did get a secretary in that does know CT SEDS and has been using it in her previous district, which is going to be really helpful for the staff. I did do a CT SEDS survey just to see how we can help and support, and it did increase in every area, and they do feel supported by the staff, which is really great, but we'll continue to work on that. Unfortunately, a lot of the issues we run into with CT SEDS are more issues with the format and not so much issues that we can control. So sometimes it's just the program just not working the way we want it to work, and we have to reach out. There's a lot of having to reach out to the help desk, and sometimes that delays things because you have to wait for a response and then you have to address it. So overall, it's been much better than the first year of implementation. Currently, I'll just go over this briefly. We have 307 students enrolled with IEPs, which is an increase from the end of year of last year of 290. So we are seeing that increase in identification. We've kind of stayed, we have 8 pending referrals right now. A lot of that is the pre-K and the birth to 3. And it stays kind of pending because with birth to 3, it's prior to the 3rd birthday. So we might have a lot of summer birthdays that we're waiting to see if they qualify here. Again, the staffing, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the staffing has remained consistent. We did hire a couple additional paraprofessionals. And then I do have a typo. We do have 3 contracted RBTs that are supporting our students as well. And then the new section that I added is that trend data. So what I did was I took our data, and as you'll see it for 23-24, it says 276 students. That was our October 1 report date to report number to the state. So every year at October 1, we have to report the number of students in our district as well as special education and other numbers. So that's our number, but currently we're over 300. And then there was a question just to, compare it to our surrounding districts. So as you can see, I think surrounding districts are also increasing in numbers. There was a jump, if you look at the second part, is the prevalence rate. So that's the number of students, that's the percentage of students with IEPs in comparison to the district. And as you can see, we did have a pretty significant jump from 2020 to 2021, from 12.1% to 13.1%. So we jumped over a percentage. And then again, from 2021 to 2022, 23, we had 13.7, and then we jumped to 14.9%. So we are seeing those increases. We are still below the state prevalence rate, which is 16.7%. And then our specialized programs in review. So we had our group of teachers from the middle school and elementary specialized program attend a training with CES. They have 2 trainers that are actually nationally trained to be able to support developmental therapy. And they had many different learning opportunities. So they were able to work and train and just learn the program. They were able to go to CES and see what it looks like in a classroom. And then they had the coaches come in and observe them and show them, provide them feedback of what they're doing well and what areas that they can focus on. It will continue next year with it kind of increases. So they have 1 more training left, and then we're going to do a coaching cycle where they can really get feedback about how they're making plans and what that looks like in the classroom. And then our life-centered transition curriculum, we implemented it actually in 2 areas. So we did it with our students from 18 to 22 in our CEP program. And then this year we implemented a transition class at the high school for seniors. And so we utilize the program there because it goes based on the student's needs. So it definitely works in a continuum of support. So they're able to start there and then continue when they go to CEP. So the data in there is reflective of that. It's kind of tricky to see, you see 67.5%. It's kind of tricky because again, it's a continuum. So they're continuing to gain skills. They're not obviously at the proficiency level, but they are building their way up to that proficiency. So it's kind of, to see 67.5%, that's not just on one skill, that's like throughout them mastering one skill and then moving on to the next domain within that area. However, speaking with Kristen, she said it's extremely useful for what we wanted to do. It really pinpoints areas of need, helps create IEP goals and objectives, and then supports what we're doing in the community to support those goals and objectives. So it's been very, very helpful for that. And then in terms of goals, most of the students are making satisfactory mastery progress to the goals and objectives aligned to their transition. In terms of special education department goals, obviously implementing CT sets, everybody has been trained, any new staff that came has been trained. We are finding ways to strengthen the systems of support within the buildings. There is a weekly some more that I send out to all of our staff, kind of with updates from the state, how can we improve, providing feedback, they know they can call at any time. So we're just continuing to do that. And then the CT set, a STEDS staff survey data that I shared earlier, was positive in the trend that, they're feeling supported and they're finding ways to troubleshoot without having to reach out, which is really nice to see. And then our professional development, again, we focused on DTT training and DTWORK, which is the assessment along with it. And then we did a lot of other trainings, again, with transition and things like that, but that was the focus for specialized programs. And then we did professional development in other areas. So we focused on our elementary special education teachers and interventionists were trained in 3 half-day training sessions for SPIRE, which is a structured literacy-based program. Middle school and high school special education teachers and interventionists also participated in a full-day training for Language Live, which is a structured literacy-based program that focuses primarily for middle school and high school students. And then we are supporting administrators through understanding the continuum of services. We definitely have discussions during our administrator council meetings. Definitely teachers are calling or principals are calling out with problems of practice so we can help and figure out, next steps. And then we are having a training this Thursday with the 2 staff members from CES. So the administrators know what DTT should look like in their schools and be able to support and know what they're looking and observing when they're in those classrooms. And we did make some adjustments to next year's course offerings at the high school. Again, we're continuing with the transition class. We also made some adjustments to the way the block schedule looks and how we can support those co-taught classes. Because the block schedule is 80 minutes, some of our kids, the way the co-taught is going to be taught is, that direct instruction for 20 to 40 minutes, and then some of them going to the resource for the second, other small groupings. So we're looking at ways to really maximize that 80-minute block and support the teachers and the students that may need that additional support. And we did make some adjustments to case management at Quaker Farms so that they can better group students for service delivery. So it's no longer the model of having 1 case manager per grade. They're sharing based on student groupings so that they can really have groups that support the student skills that they're working on versus just having a group that's the same grade level. And that's worked really successful this year. They really enjoy it, and we're changing that up and moving that to go next year as well. And then my last data point, there was just some question about what our actual disability categories are. So this data came right from EdSite, but the one at the last is our current data that I pulled from CTSET. So I don't want to say it's apples to apples, but it's pretty close. What I did too, if you notice, the aggregate data includes emotional disability, intellectual disability, and visual impairment. The reason I pull those together is that because of the asterisk, there's not enough data, it kind of is identifying. So I kind of lumped all of the numbers together so you can see about how many are in that area. And that's our data from CTSET as of right now.
I want to thank you for the summary. Was there a page 2 or did it just ends?
It's on the back.
See, I need education. Yeah.
Another test.
Yeah,
How many contracts did I sign without reading the back? Yeah. God only knows.
I should have put an arrow, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just, but anyway, I'm excused. Going into next year, we're gonna have I don't know what you call it, all hospitals or all monitors or. We're going with.
Behavioral person?
Yeah, whatever, yeah. And,
Okay,
yeah, I mean, we called it
yeah,
back in the day, back when we had Stone.
the context coordinator or the BCBA?
Whoever's gonna be in the hall helping.
Neither of those positions are that.
We're not gonna do it.
No,
We don't have hall monitors. That does that. We don't have a position for that.
BCBA's.
And we asked you to have a hall monitor, we don't have hall
Is
monitors.
that the position that we just,
helping in the hallways.
is that the position that we just hired for there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
This-
that's the.
The discipline.
person.
Yes,
okay, so, that will come in this report, how that's helping out with some of the problems. that
yeah,
we're
so
having
next
with
year,
this.
I think you're gonna have to hear a lot from me, because I'll have a special ed report, and then I'll have that behavioral report, because that doesn't necessarily link with the special education. It does, because it helps and supports all of our students, but I think that's a different set of data that I'll report.
Yeah, I'm kind of overviewing your new role, so
Yes,
the bigger
yeah.
picture type of thing. And, because you read a lot about what's happening in the hallways of all schools, discipline, teachers wanting to leave because they can't get anything, down, they're spending more time saying, no, you can't go to the mentor. I guess it's a mentor. And, that type of thing. And I've been reading about different technologies that they have out there, that, they now have a algorithm AI.
We do
So
use
all the words that I know,
electronics.
that
pass
sense
system.
if you're having a fight in the hallway or in the restroom, you can tell if you're doing vaping, marijuana, whatever, and it senses it and sends a detailed report of what's going on, and it can isolate if the toilet falls down, that it's not a fight, that type of thing. So as we look forward to next year and getting control over the internal part of the school, which I understand can be chaotic both in the classroom. So I'm just saying that next year we'll be looking for further evidence that we're working in that area, because I heard a speech today that, guns kill so many people, cars kill so many people, but combine them together and drugs kill 3.5 times more than the combination of automobiles and guns. So, and it's something that you all have to be aware of, so.
I can also report on, we do have that grant funded social worker that is primarily working on the vaping and drug education with students. So any student that's either caught or there's another issue with, drug use is working directly with that social worker. So I can get you more data on, the number of students that person is working with middle school and high school. Our grant funding is allowing us to have an additional person next year, so we will have one for the middle school and for the high school. And then I can also give you a report on what that programming looks like for each of the students.
Okay, and thank you for page 1 answer.
You're welcome.
Nicole?
So last year we had 12 kids exited from special ed. This year we have 9. Is that because they're mastering their goals and objectives and they no longer need the specialized education? Or is it because they're graduating from high school?
Those are actually exited from special education.
So if they graduated, that's not considered.
No, but I can
exited?
get you that data.
Oh, no, I don't need to
Okay.
know it. I was just trying to get a sense of
Yes.
where that was. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. This is great. I think you've been doing a lot of good work. In terms of the personnel that work with our students in the program, if there's a change to who's working with our students, let's say a paraprofessional is no longer going to be working with a group of students or anything like that for any number of reasons, how does it go about notifying parents when there is a change? Because obviously these students are used to uniformity or consistent schedule or something like that. And I understand we can't go into, anything in regards to, how their contracts work or if they're hired, fired, terminated, et cetera. But if there's a change in employment or something that's going to change with their student, are parents notified, are staff notified? How does that kind of transition go? And if you could just get into that.
Yeah, there's typically a notification from the building principal. If that's not happening, just let me know and I can make sure that if there's someone leaving. And then again, it depends on the timeline. If it's someone leaving and we know that there's gonna be a change, we can definitely share that. If there's something where we can't notify until, they've given us notice to do that, then we would notify once we have that information. But it's typically communicated through the building administration.
I think that might be something we just need to look at in the future.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Teacher event.
Yeah, so the state of Connecticut required that every school district adopt a new teacher evaluation plan for this upcoming school year. So what they gave each district was the rough set of parameters that the plan need to be developed by, and then allow each district to develop that unique plan. So Eric has taken the PDEC committee through developing that plan this year. We now need the board to approve the plan so that we can submit to the state this summer.
And then the state will either accept, provide some feedback. They may ask for clarification. And I've heard some other districts, they just have to, change wordsmith things or add like a document or two. So it'll be sent to the state for review before it's used. But PDEC worked on this for the entire year. And the way the state kind of put information out, kind of drips and drabs throughout the year. So it's difficult to kind of, work on some stuff and then to kind of change gears. But the major talking points, or I guess the essence of this plan, really revolves around the educator's professional learning goal for the year. And we say teacher evaluation, it's really a district evaluation plan because administrators follow basically almost the same exact format as teachers. So at the beginning of the year, there's always been a goal setting, but the change now is that teachers and administrators are basically going to create a professional learning plan throughout the year where they're expected to focus on a topic that is going to impact their practice in the classroom, which then in turn would have impact on students. And then if you're an administrator, the focus is on, also impact on the staff or overall school community you work with. So the goal is for them to focus and then throughout the year on PD days, work with their evaluator, is to kind of gain experience on whatever it is they're focusing on that is going to impact their practice. In that goal setting meeting, they have to identify what the criteria for success is, what evidence is going to look like, where they're going to want feedback on in those particular areas. But it does follow a similar pattern as to the past one, where there are multiple observations throughout the school year. There's the goal setting, the mid-year check-in, then final end-of-year check-in with their evaluator, as well as at the end of the year, determination on whether that teacher and administrator were successful or not in regards to the evaluation plan. That's another change. There used to be different ratings depending on what district you're in. It could be, proficient or developing or exemplary. Now it is just, were you successful or not? The other thing we tried to focus on this plan is for all certified staff in the building. So PDEC worked hard on trying to also create opportunities where guidance counselors, social workers, speech and language have a connection to the evaluation plan. In the past, it was they were lumped in with teachers, which didn't always fit. When you had a rubric, giving teachers feedback on how instructions happen in the classroom, typically what a social worker, guidance counselor, speech and language, it's a different format, different environment in which they're working with students. So we try to incorporate some of the standards that align more to them. And besides creating a vision for high quality instruction, we also created a vision for high quality support. So they have more of a buy-in and a direct tie to create their own professional learning goal that supports the district initiatives. A lot of the work this year or this next school year, again, is going to be, I talked about it before, that administrative calibration. So that teachers, whether you're at the high school, the middle school, Quaker, grade O, that they're receiving the same level of support, receiving the same level of feedback, and understanding and identifying effective professional development for them. That piece is probably going to be the hardest because teachers, while it has to align to a vision for high quality instruction, there could be in the building a number of different focuses and goals that teachers may have. And that evaluator has to be prepared to support all of them equally. And it's difficult. PDEC spends a lot of time trying to identify effective professional development. And Tracy's on PDEC, so I'm looking at Tracy. We spend a lot of time doing it. I'm not saying every single time is perfect. The professional development that we've created this year for teachers, I am happy that when we've given surveys afterwards just to say, did this work? Did we like it? We're typically around 80% or higher in regards to approval. So you know, I want to get that number higher, but you know, the majority of people are finding the professional development effective. And a lot of that work, it's not just a me thing or PDEC thing, it's also building administrators who do a lot of work with identifying what the building needs and what that professional development is going to look like. Another one of the major changes is, the rubric is, we're switching to what's called single point competency. So we're using a similar rubric that teachers are aware of. It's called the CCT rubric, which the state has been using for a number of years, but it used to be kind of this confusing 9, 10, 12-page document where it had a continuum with a lot of language like, a few of your students are doing this, and you'd be right here, or some of your students, and it was very subjective as to what is a few, what is a many, what is some, it depends on the lesson. So a single point competency just means that we basically created a standard of this is the standard we want to see in the classroom and attain, not well, some, few, many in this subjective language. So again, a lot of the work is going to be on calibration so that the evaluators are providing a similar experience when it comes to the feedback piece and the support for professional development. So again, that's going to be a lot of work for next year. Yes, Steve.
The question is, maybe I don't quite get it all, but
Mhm.
I'm good with the cadence, the operating rhythm, the check-ins. More PD is better, grow them professionally and personally. I'm stuck on, it feels pass or fail. Nothing in life is pass or fail when you work. Like the students have to earn a grade. It's gonna be an A to an F, right? I go to work, I'm either gonna be a 1 or a 5. 5 is very super rare. Average person's a 3-, 4, 3. 4 is exceptional, right? How do we get to the point where we want everyone to grow and want them to perform, but how do we know really who's coming to the table with the basic fundamentals to do the job properly and exceed, have our students exceed? I don't understand how we get that out of this type of.
So you're right, it is a yes or no, and that's part of the state model we have to follow. It's one of the non-negotiables.
We have to, totally.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And we interweave.
So
How do we?
part of it is, there's also there's ways that's done. So there's also, at the end of the year, there's a summit that's also written by the evaluator,
Right.
which outlines, there is more of your specific information as to what went well, what do we need to work on. A lot of work this year is gonna have to be done on when whether it's an administrator, a teacher, or counselor, whoever receives tier 2, which is in the plan. There's a plan for tier 2 support, tier 3 support, corrective support. So there's gonna be a lot of calibration around what does it mean and how does someone go from being on what's called tier 1 down to you now need more specific support and we're creating a plan for you. So there is a process for someone who's struggling, and we're now having this plan that we're laying out specific goals and support. If that doesn't work, we have another plan. And again, the number of plans and what those look like, a lot of that is outlined by the state as well. But while it's not yes at the end, there is that yes or no. Basically, were you successful with this plan? Throughout the plan, there's a lot of opportunity for someone, if it is not working, to provide a lot more intensive support for that person.
If you have this like these tier 1, 2, and we're essentially gonna walk out the door next kind of thing, right? Like there's certain levels, but how do you measure, what's the measure to say this person is at 1 and we gotta teach them a couple of things? Like, if there's no metrics to
Yeah.
begin with.
So I would say that is a lot of, what Trace said, that was like a lot of meetings of trying to figure that out. And that's where that calibration piece comes into. Like when a teacher, it also may not be like, when we think of someone going from like a tier 1 to tier 2, it doesn't automatically think like someone's doing something bad, right? You could be a brand new teacher who, you know, you are not going to have the same level of confidence or expertise as someone who's been in the position for 6, 7 years, right? So that new teacher may need throughout the year more intensive support. It may not mean, like you said, walking out the door. It may not mean like, hey, we're walking out the door, but there's different levels of support we can provide throughout the year to make sure that, hey, you need a different level of support that maybe this teacher has been teaching this class for 6, 7 years. That's a lot better understanding of it. So in regards to metrics,
Yeah.
it was difficult. We don't have that set because it's not a black and white thing where you can say, well, I went in, I gave you this one piece of advice, and now you're automatically going to go to tier 2. Like that's a lot of that calibration work as to the work I'm going to be doing with the administrators over the summer is what does this look like when a teacher needs tier 2? And as we work this plan, we'll have more concrete examples of, oh, this is when this teacher needed it versus this teacher and so forth.
One more question, so just non-educator, right? So if you said every teacher in this district has to have, just pick a skill. Because there's the skill and there's the behavioral component of. Are they trying to demonstrate or not demonstrating? You give them the feedback, they're not doing it, like there's the behavioral component, and there's the core skill. So what would be like a core skill every person in education, regardless of tenure? Should come to the table with or have as a basic thing to determine if they can deliver something to our kids? Like,
Well,
what's an
you-
example of that?
It'll be that student engagement piece. So in here, I think it's in there, the table of contents, the vision for high quality instruction. So that paragraph really lays out our expectations of teachers, like at a larger scale. A lot of that focus that we've had this year, conversations with teachers is on student engagement, as well as that lives in that vision for high quality instruction. So a lot of the work we've done with the teachers this year and will continue to work is that basic expectation of when you're delivering a lesson, one of the things that we're focusing on as evaluators is that student engagement. How are students engaged? Because we realize unless they are engaged, they're not going to be doing it.
Right.
And there's different levels of engagement. There's an example of something, they better have that understanding of what engagement looks like and how to engage their students, which may look different. Obviously, grade level to grade level, department to department, person to person.
And that's what that.
Person to person.
Personality.
And there's an art and science of teaching, right? So there's there's a science of teaching, which which the research, which says, the student engagement piece. If students are not engaged, they're not gonna learn, but the art of teaching is how do you get them there, right? What one teacher may have an extremely effective strategy with their students 1 year on engaging those students. You may have a teacher next door try the exact same thing with their class and may fall flat on its face. So it's that teacher's responsibility to understand what strategy is going to work with those students and to find that strategy. And it's the evaluator's job to provide support and be able to say, hey, this is not working, right? If we're using the student engagement example, here's the evidence I have that I'm seeing that students are not engaged. Like, we got to try something else. Well, whether it could be like, peer observation, it could be lesson plan support or what have you. But there's an example of a basic, all teachers are expected to be able to engage their students on a high level.
And the work that we do as an administrative team is that calibration piece, so that if any of us go into that same classroom, we're gonna walk out with the same understanding as to where that teacher is and what type of support that teacher may need, or is that teacher an expert in that area, could be a professional support to other teachers in the building or the district.
So my final question, sorry, this is all interesting to me. It's so different than I've ever been contemplated, right? So majority of our teachers are great and work hard, right? And in the form of meritocracy, you want to elevate them, recognize them. The ones who are putting the right behavior forth but can't get there, you want to get them and raise them there as well, because the behavior is there they're demonstrating the need and want to do it, just lacking something, and you gotta work with it, right? Then there's the ones that maybe behavior is not there and are lacking. Does this new process make it harder, and where the unions combined into this, right? Does it make it harder to exit someone with this new process who's not doing their job and doesn't care? Because the longer that person's there, the more disservice they do the kids that are going through it, obviously.
So I've not been a teacher who doesn't care here, which is nice. But yes, I understand your question.
Yeah.
So the reason the state had the non-negotiable of having the different tiers, which finally ends with the
Yeah.
corrective support plan, which very clearly has the district work with the different negotiations of the different unions, knowing that, yes, it does happen and you may need to get to that
Right.
point. So I think it does a better job of the old system of laying out the specifics and having actual documents, which, hey, the non-negotiable, here's what the plan is gonna look like if we have to get to that point. It's our job to make sure there's clear, goals for them to be able to reach. So there's a clear understanding of, hey, if this doesn't happen, we will have to move to this
Right.
level or this level.
So
that's
that's
not
muddied
part
it
of
a little bit though, this new approach. In that rare instance, when you got somebody who's just not doing the right thing, right? That muddy it
I don't-
more.
I wouldn't
I don't know if it muddies it, like it definitely,
It changes the approach that we take in the past slightly, but it's still the same general pathway.
Okay.
Nicole?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the teacher evaluation plan. as
Sorry,
written.
Nicole.
Second,
Is that what you
we
need?
call it the district evaluation.
District
All
development.
All right.
Just semantics, because it is administrators, it's like everyone.
And say,
Just
okay.
amend it. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Thank you.
For your Ramiro,
Thank you, Eric.
appreciate it.
Yep.
And Tracy, thanks for your time on.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome. I think you're actually, to answer your point, I think you're better off with this system, honestly, because like Eric said, now you've got clear documentation. I can't think of any teachers who have tenure who would be fired that quickly anyway. So
Right.
that doesn't happen anyway in the real world.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have tenure, there's still other steps to go around besides this evaluation plan. But I think this outlines, if you're seeing areas where people are failing, you're working with them to support them, to try to get them to where you want them to be.
And the whole point is to provide the support the teachers need to be successful.
Some major classes with the whammy, in other years it's a grand slam, it just depends on the kids in the year too.
Right.
Dr. Miller, your report.
So today was the last day of school. Our students went home, they're healthy, they learned tremendously throughout the school year. Our teachers and our staff had an amazing year. I am so proud of everybody that put all their heart and soul into educating our kids from the first day of school to the last day. It was just an amazing year all around, and I think our teachers and our staff just did amazing work. I want to thank all of them publicly, and they all deserve to be out of the back for educating kids in this community. We had, if you take a look next door, you can see ladders and stuff. Air Temp is actively working, and now that the school year is out, this building will be shut down essentially for the daytime and evenings for them to do the work that they need to do. There's that student programming. Obviously, the main office will be in function. Students would be in the building permitting the start of the school year. But this essentially becomes a work zone during the course of the summer. And we let people know that this building is basically off limits during part of the summer. In terms of vacancies, I know there was the question with the AD. Megan right now is setting up the interviews. We did post for both a full and a part-time. We have not closed the door for either of them. If we have a high quality candidate that's available and is a good candidate to do it the part-time, then that's something that we definitely might go for. So we did not close the first set of applicants. We wanted to see what we have and interview for both and figure out where we need to go from there from a financial standpoint. Obviously, there's something that we're still working out. If we can't afford a full-time, we go to part-time, if that's what we need to do, but we are still working out what the options are for that. So the resumes are still being collected. As far as the principal search goes, we had, as of Friday, I think 20 applicants. I sent out just under 12,000 emails Friday evening to every administrator in the state of Connecticut, trying to encourage them to apply. We are reviewing applications as soon as we feel comfortable with before we do screening interviews. Megan and I, and then we'll convene the committee. Same process we did last year for those. And for Eric's position, we do an internal screening set to filter out the highest quality candidates, and then we pull the committee together to do the search. And that also includes a performance task of individuals. So it's a pretty robust process to go through. In terms of the other vacancies, we're underway. I know in this building, we have several teachers that wanted to move to 5th grade, so that created openings in 3rd and 4th grade. That's why we ended up posting those positions when we were looking at 5th grade. So teachers wanted to move, so we wanted to honor that. We are anticipating an elementary school special ed teacher moving to a different role in the district, which is going to create a special education opening elsewhere. And I want to honor a teacher that wants to move to another role. She's not leaving the district. She wants to stay here. She just transitioning to a different role. As far as athletics go, I interviewed the 2 finalists for the head cheer coach this afternoon. So I'm hoping to invite the person to take the position tomorrow, Thursday. So we're looking to close that up the next day or 2. Department chairs, Eric, along with Linda and Stephanie, collaboratively interviewed the department chairs. We're looking to make those announcements to those individuals tomorrow, I believe, and then open up for the team leaders. We're considered calling the integrated department now, but we'll come with a better title at the start of the school year. That's phys ed, health, music, world language. So we're trying to figure out what that should be called. But we wanted to hire the department chairs before we moved on to the team leaders, because what's going to happen in that department is the specialists that gets hired as a department chair, that person is focusing a whole set of domains that they're not an expert in. So the team leaders will be identified in those other content areas to then work along and support the department chair in that one larger department. And then graduation, the promotion ceremony for 8th grade, went beautifully. I want to publicly again thank Judy McGinnis, who has been our paraprofessional at the middle school, who for years, I don't know how many years it's been, but for a long time has been organizing, facilitating the middle school promotion ceremony. She does a phenomenal job every year. She's gonna do it next year. But she did an amazing job yesterday, and I think it was under 50 minutes, the whole ceremony from start to finish. The weather is perfect, and then the high school graduation was perfect last night as well. Perfect weather. The students were very well behaved. It was a great ceremony. So I'm going to thank the whole board for being there and supporting our students. And thank you for the wonderful year, everybody.
Thank you. Audience citizens, anybody have anything to say? Me, I just wanted to thank everyone for a great year. We've done a lot. I think one of the greatest things is having so many students come before the board and be recognized. I think that's why we're here. Besides educating them, but honoring them, and I think it's really important. We did have ice cream for the staff a couple weeks ago. I got a couple of thank yous, so it was nice. I think people enjoyed it. Thank you for allowing us to do that. I appreciate it. And we will have probably some summer stuff coming up. We have our board retreat. Hopefully, I like to do that as early as we can, so we're prepared for Dr. Miller to move forward with goals and that type of thing. So if you guys could just give me your availability for the first part of August, that would be great. And we'll have our board retreat and get that taken care of early and set our goals early.
Negotiations. We want to remind everybody that we successfully completed one round with one association. So we'll need to convene the board probably in a Zoom session to ratify that. Zach just sent me the draft today for me to review and Howard to review. And we're also negotiating with a couple other groups as well. So over the next month, we'll probably have a couple smaller meetings to ratify those contracts.
And if we're successful, we can do them all in one night. That would be
With
the
cross
goal.
fingers.
That would be the goal, to not have to bother you guys as much. So, that's pretty much it. Facilities, Mike?
So, our next meeting is tentatively for Tuesday, 6:25. Is that the next board meeting that we're anticipating having?
But we're not gonna have a full board meeting, but we could certainly meet for the committee.
Well, the subcommittee is looking to meet Tuesday, 6:25 at 5:30, whether it's prior to a board meeting or not. That's.
Oh, I know. Joe, you want to be put on facility? Is that the committee that you decided that you wanted to do?
Yeah.
So I need to make a motion to add, Joe to the facilities committee. Subcommittee.
I'd like to make a motion to add Joe Iannucci to the facility subcommittee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained, motion carries. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure we got you on something before.
For sure.
Okay, curriculum, well, Eric gave us our curriculum update. We'll meet again. I don't have a date, but might see over the summer. Policy, Nicole.
We have two policies here for a second read. The first one is the purchasing policy. We incorporated our existing policy with the language from Shipman and Goodwin. We reviewed it with Howard Wardlow, and we put monetary amounts in, filled in the blanks for what triggers certain requirements. Does anybody have any questions regarding that policy?
We just checked charter to make sure the numbers reflect what the charter says too as well.
Should be.
Can we vote on it tonight, or do you want to wait?
If you're comfortable with it.
It's what the older policy had that's been in the books for a
Okay,
while.
that's fine then.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchasing policy as read.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed, abstain, motion carried.
And then the next policy we have is the high school graduation requirements policy. We went over it with Eric. He gave it his blessing. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Then I'd like to make a motion that we approve the high school graduation requirements policy as read.
Second that.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Noel. Good. Finance?
Yeah, so we haven't met since last time. We're gonna look to maybe meet next week. To dig together, but we need to review the latest month financials and see how we're landing coming into July 1st. So look for else next for me about about a meeting. Hopefully everyone's calendar is pretty good.
Sure. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. Here's that.
Yes, just not Monday and Tuesday.
Oh, sorry. We gotta make a motion. Sorry, and we do have a motion, as Deb mentioned earlier, beginning of the meeting, that every year we put the policy on hold where we have to get bidding process for making last minute year-end adjustments and purchases. So for the month of June, we're going to suspend our bid policy. So motion to suspend the bid policy for June of 2024 based upon receipt of competitive quotes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion
Steve, while we're still in the, I'm sorry. May I speak? Steve? All right, so, I've had several questions from board of finance about the athletic director position and how that's gonna be funded. So I think it might not be a bad idea to yourself and Howard to have conversations with Jack.
We're already having conversations and, you know, Dr. Miller's point, there's 2 roles posted still.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. So we have, we're gonna get together with the communication. But also would like to know, have a little better understanding where we're headed, right? Kind of tie them together. But there, regardless, if it does become full-time, there will be a message and how and why. That we can share with the board and public. Perfect. In spirit of everything we've done so far, right?
I just don't want it to get to the point of this.
No, we're working on it.
If there's already questions.
There's several pieces to the puzzle. Some of it is finances,
Well, I
some of it is the right applicants to the pool. And then because there's other couple of pieces that if they don't fall right, we might not be able to pull the finances together to make the full-time happen.
So we'll get the right messaging, as we've been trying to do since this whole budget process.
I think we can work on that in finance as well.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Liaison reports, PTO held their last meeting and elected new officers. I wish the old officers well. They sent out retirement letters, cards to people at their schools that have retired, so. But that was really nice. And that was it.
Senior lock-in was a huge success. We had, I think about 80 kids.
Oh, wow.
A few of the baseball boys didn't show up, but that was expected. But yeah, it went really well. They all had a really good time. On their best behavior. They all left with a prize. So that was good. The water in the little top thing got put out yesterday for the high school graduation. Gentleman who did her crew did that. We have a new board. I officially retired.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, so we're just, getting ready. We'll be meeting this summer for, for school year beginning.
So you won't be the liaison anymore.
I can still do it. I won't be going too far. I won't actually have to officially do it.
Okay.
Well, thank you to the outgoing board. We appreciate all that they've done. All right, we have an executive session.
I hereby move that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of evaluation of the superintendent's annual performance and discussion of a new contract of employment with the superintendent. And I further move that the board invite the superintendent, Dr. Robert Miller, into the executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Yeah.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thank you. Contract, or wasn't on board, so.
Don't you worry, don't get up.
Yeah, just release me up.
Voting it out,
Yeah.
I need to get out.
Email.
Yeah, that's fine. We need to.